Hey friends and fans, welcome to Dave Talks After Ukraine War update for the 5th of May 2025. As of 2 hours ago, there was a ceasefire declared by Ukraine. Now, there was an attack between 21, well, I'd say 22 and 16 hours ago on Kiev and other parts of Ukraine. Railway infrastructure was hit in 5 counties, oblasts. But you wouldn't know it because they haven't marked them all. But they have marked most of the significant attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. Map is frozen again. Now it's loading. It's loading. It should be loading. I loaded it. Oh, well. Alright, so Kursk, which is rarely hit. Kremenski, Dnipro, Kharkiv, of course, and other areas were all hit with drone attacks on railway. Ukraine, of course, always claims they're only passenger trains, yet the other day they were showing Polish tanks. Which is it? Polish tanks? They tick them every too, They're only passengers. So most of the front, very quiet, nothing to report. Ukraine did, before announcing the attack, they did attack the occupied Donetsk. It's not Donetsk, it's occupied Donetsk, to always home in. Now they attacked five long-range missiles from Ukraine were shot at Russia. Now, friends and fans, I have a Shopify. I have a shop. Empire of Elves on Shopify. So, you like to support the channel? I got mugs, travel mugs, and stainless steel water bottles, and other products with more to come. Updated the fantasy author mug, and I've got some more graphics for coffee time, and more to come. Now, you can't every day introduce new weapons or go over old weapons. I have been looking for more footage to just show you what Ukraine leaves out. Now, it seems to be hard to find anything new. It's or fresh. A lot of it is the same old stuff every year. Russia is slowly improving its air force, but you don't want to see a story about its air force 2 years ago, or everyone knows the Su-35. It's not as high performance, or any aircraft is as good as the manufacturer claims, except for maybe the F-22. It's probably one of the most understated, or F-16 and F-22, most understated aircraft. F-15 was... Now, this is the thing. America's usually very honest with its weapons, usually. There were a few duds here and there, but most of the time... But a lot of the Russian stuff... Yeah, these rockets, they are... I mean, if they were so fantastic, they'd be used far more often. Although they are expensive. Remember that. But the Ukrainian 220... The 220 Moron Mobile Rocket Launcher. Now, you don't want to be standing near it when it goes off. But a lot of this is file footage, but there you go. The Russians... Now, what do you notice? Separate crew drive the truck out. Now, you can have ground crew showing up in civilian cars. So when you hear about, so whenever you hear about cars getting hit, that's why. Okay? The Russians, they could read license plates too, you know. Now, I don't know what these people are. They could be, this is, but they could have they could be, the people with the keys to the rockets. You know, the rockets won't launch unless they're unlocked. Now, they appear that the way they're exploding, they were probably thermobaric weapons, pretty much like the Russians, using a liquid base fuel. So when it goes off, it spreads everywhere and vaporizes fast. There you go. There's the truck. And looking too healthy. Maybe a bit of, just a bit of polish. New paint job. She'll be good as new, mate. Yeah, it was actually the source from a Ukrainian. Yeah, she blew up all right. Oh, there goes their car and sets wheels on fire. So, this is how they did it. Spotted a drone, began processing, spotted, looking for the telltale straight lines in, and they spotted it, parked up against, and they're starting to repeat themselves. Yeah. This is the mainstay of, rocket artillery for the Ukrainian army. I don't have all the stats on hand. I do actually. I could look them up. But what's the point? Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The fact is that Ukraine covers everything up and wants to tell you how much they allegedly destroyed, even though they claim. Now, last night's attack on the night of the 4th to early morning on the 5th was pretty big, and the Ukrainians claim to have shot down, again, a pretty big pile of it, but by 9 o'clock, they claim to have shot down hundreds, the usual, yes. But the state of the war is, right now, a rather unusual situation. Hold on. An unusual situation indeed. Okay. Around 9 o'clock Ukrainian time, Russia announced a unilateral 2-day ceasefire for the 8th and 9th to coincide with its Victory Day celebrations. That's World War II. They have a lot of parades, I know. Victory? Victory Day. Victory Day, Russia. 9th of May commemorates 1945 defeat in the Great Patriotic War. Military parades are held in Red Square in multi-regiment marches. There will be a march this year in the United States honouring the millions who died in World War II fighting. Yeah. Now, Ukraine did not officially accept this. However, about an hour later, there was phone calls and discussions throughout the day, and as of 2 hours ago, Ukraine announced it was celebrating and holding its own ceasefire for the cessation of hostilities in World War II. Now, this has apparently resulted in all markers been removed from the map. The ministry has reported some things throughout the day, mostly to do with drone attacks. But when Ukraine announced its cessation about 8 hours ago, artillery stopped. Missiles stopped. Nothing on the battlefield but quiet. But where battles were held, they haven't updated the map. They just removed all the markers. And stopped reporting the news, which means we're not sure the fate of the town. The maps decided to update again. Yeah, see, 3 minutes ago there was explosions audible in Zaporozhye. They haven't said what or why. But, yeah. So we don't have a complete picture. This is nothing in the Ukrainian news on Pravda and other news. You actually have to go to the Ukrainian site and try to find a story. And for some reason, I can't get Ukrainian site to translate today. As you can see, the internet is dragging its heels, and this map constantly updates whenever I move anything. So there is something going on. Oh, it's wrong one. So, large-scale attack. Now, for the last 2 days, Zelensky's been going around trying to make sure Eastern European countries will continue its approved sanctions on Russia. Now, Slovakia hasn't said anything other than they will not resume electricity supplies to Ukraine. Then saying that Ukraine didn't bring that up. Why? Because Poland's selling it to them cheaper. Yeah, doesn't matter what Slovakia does, but they lost money having to buy gas from other sources. Ukraine's just thumbing their nose at them saying, give us money. However, in recent news, there was a seizure of weapons. And this is nothing new. Since the invasion, since 2022, Ukrainians have been taking, well, actually long before that, since the fall of the Soviet Union, Ukrainians have been taking arms to Poland to sell. Every month, hundreds of weapons are seized at the border. Ukrainians take their weapons everywhere. But there's a lot of, let's say, trucks that rock up in the initial phases of the war that flooded Ukraine with arms. There were huge stockpiles of arms found in many places in Ukraine. Some abandoned by the Ukrainian army. Others had been put there long before the conflict. Russia showed 9 months ago the big vaults of weapons dating back to 1956. Stockpiles of weapons. Huge waste of resources, I would say. The stockpiles more weapons than they could use and never recycled anything, keeping old weapons. Why would you keep old weapons, especially old Soviet weapons, unless you were planning something? So there was a smuggling boom. Russia's just pointing it out. Poland did run the story initially, but Pravda's taken it down before I could screen capture it. Now, Polish police have operations every year against illegal weapons, and of course the biggest cause is weapons out of Ukraine. Ukrainian police also have illegal firearms on the streets now. A lot of them are being used. As you know, there's explosions all around Ukraine right now that are not attributed to Russia, that were not done by Russia or Russian agents, allegedly. That there have been videos circulating although they rarely appear anywhere else other than Russian media, of attacks on Ukrainian recruiters. Because they don't recruit, they put guns to people's heads and drag them into cars. But increasingly, people have been fighting back. But unfortunately, a large number of weapons are used for self-deletion. I would prefer Ukrainians solve their problems and start to heal. They just can't seem to accept the loss. Now, swarm busting. That's going to be the new challenge going forward. Now, the only way to bust a swarm, as you can see here, someone who knows electronics would probably tell me what that is, but I do think that is a signal amplifier on top of that. But someone might say, no, it's a cooling block. I would say it's a cooling block for a signal amplifier. Or around, I should say, a signal amplifier. Rostock, which is Russia's leading technology, and it's mostly state-owned. I believe the Klishnikov is the largest private, but it is also partly state-owned. And Rostock is mostly state-owned, but partly private, which is the Rostock Bureau, of course, is overseen directly by the army, whereas Klishnikov is a private concern, so they have to approach for. But their biggest branch of electronics, they have multiple electronic branches for different things, but their biggest branch right now for electronics has come up with a new system to counter for electronic warfare. Now, it's probably weird, but of course these America and Russia, they both come up with weird names sometimes for things, but this is a system to counter first-person drones. And as you can see, it's actually drone mounted. It flies in. But I think this photo is misleading, and someone's going to say that's just a kamikaze first-person drone. That's possible as well. But there is a system bolted onto the top of tanks. It's got a big block on top, and it's got a little receiver. And when it starts to receive certain signals, it starts to counter and amplify the magnitude of the signal and the direction, calculates everything between the two antennas, and then starts sending a pulse to disrupt the signal. Between disruptions, it flips between jamming and scanning, flipping between the two rapidly, always recalculating. Just because first-person drones, they start to get jammed, they can change channels. So, and they try to keep up with the channel changing. With drone swarms, there's a lot of communications. So it's trying to work out which signals to communicate, to jam. And once first-person drone is beyond the range of its, most of the Russian ones now use cable, which withdraw when they put it into kamikaze mode. But a lot of the short range, a lot of your drones launched by Russia are short range. They're only just across the street to hit the Ukrainians on the other side. But Ukrainians are trying to modify their drones. Russia's modified their drones. Of course, as soon as enough drone parts fall over the battlefield, because every day, and guys go out with cars, and scrape the battlefield for anything they can find to study to make sure that they can try and get ahead on drone technology or any changes or updates. I mean, this is what we have, is Russia's taught Ukraine everything it knows, and Ukraine's now learnt everything it can of Europe, and they are trying to, because they want to get ahead of Russia. They've got such a chip on their shoulder, and Zelensky's driving that country into the ground. All this innovation for drone jamming and drone control, maybe it will translate into better disruption-free communications. I doubt it. The army will keep that little nugget for itself for as long as it can. High-end signal processors are probably about the only thing we'll get. Great noise-cancelling headphones that can get that last tiny whisper of or your neighbour doing a weed whacker. Gosh, some people love their weed whackers, right? Sorry, I'm guilty of that. I used to get out there and rev it up and spend way too long cutting. I used to cut entire lawns with a weed whacker. So the system could generate directional jamming to neutralize individual drones or omnidirectional. Like I said, this is most likely a composition image to just mislead. It's a Ukrainian interceptor drone, I thought. But anyway. The drone pipeline. Increasingly, drones are being delivered for final assembly. Russia is saying that it will start targeting the trucks that are delivering or those depots. They're given Europe time and warning to get its personnel out. And that's why there's no other reason. Otherwise, they'd just do it. So, the drone production, to scale up drone production, Ukraine had to get more. Okay, well, you used to have a fine, nice, comfortable job designing and assembling drones, and then one day someone says, you're no longer smuggling cigarettes, you're now making drones for the Ukrainian government. Who are you guys? This is the secret police who've already confiscated your bank accounts, so don't worry about running. We've taken care. We also know about the gun under the table. Don't worry, we took the bullets out before we started talking to you. So the cigarette smugglers became drone makers, and now the government has come and put its hand on the shoulder and says, son, it's time to serve your country one more time. What do you mean? I'm designing all these nice drones for you. Yes, but we need you at the front. Long story short, this is a Russian front. So, increasingly drones are now made in Poland, England, and some in Romania. Now, there was supposed to be a deal with the UAE, but the UAE turned around and I think they sent the Ukrainians home. I don't know what happened. I think they actually got a little too rowdy outside the hotel room one night or something. I don't know. The deal's on hold. It hasn't been cancelled. It's just on hold. Or that could be cope, right? Just like the all those projects in Saudi Arabia are on hold for 20 years. Although right now, no one can be certain what is and what isn't going to be cancelled. But the drone pipeline. Data systems require electronics, and for sustainable combat operations, you need a very large logistic to produce hundreds of drones per day. Now, these drones are 3D printed, but those 3D printers need electronics. And those electronics wear out very quickly when you're mass producing. industrial 3D printers. They're not small. All that nylon, I think it is. It's a polynylon. That hard casing there. That it's highly flammable in some conditions. So, you know, you got to be. That's where I'm thinking you're getting a lot of these warehouse fires right now. They're melting the nylon with once nylon begins to melt and burn, it just keeps melting and burning more until it becomes an intense fire. Because you do need that drone case to shatter, and shatter very easy on explosion. So it can't be too tough, but it has to be just tough enough. Now, of course, the electric motors and electronics, trained monkeys can assemble those. So, yeah, all your drone specialists who haven't been transferred out of Ukraine are soon going to be ending up on the Russian front. Again, some of these drones are just too niche or too short-lived. Like an interceptor drone for a Shahed 136. Once Russia runs out of the 136 and starts producing the the Gnan 4 and 5, sorry. They may look similar, but the Gnan 4 is faster, flies higher, and can actually has but again, a lot of these things are cope, right? Some of them, they're not going to care if there's a huge drone swarm, if some going to get intercepted, because to them, launching interceptors is a resource wasted, right? You take down one of our drones using a more expensive drone, that's a win for us. But if the Ukrainians get the cost of these interceptors down, that starts shifting the economic burden of war back on and enable them to produce more, which then puts the burden on Russia to produce bigger drone swarms, and that starts to be a problem and an economic burden. So that's how the war is shifting right now, and why the ceasefire won't matter. We'll see what happens in 8 to 9 hours. I'll report tomorrow what happens. But for now, there's a ceasefire, and that is a good thing. That means less men are going to die today. That is always a good thing. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please support the channel and support me in a number of ways. Like, share, and subscribe. You can support me on Ko-Fi, Patreon, buy my books, buy my merch. I appreciate each and every one of you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.